Welcome back to the workshop, everybody. So glad you could be with me here today. Walter here at the wood lathe. We've got the monster oak bowl back on, and as you can see, it's gone oval. But I just wanted to give you a couple of quick tips and show you how I have always sanded and then how I sand today. Basic sanding is nothing more than sandpaper, okay? You don't need any machines, you don't need any attachments, you don't need any gadgets. It's just sandpaper. You turn your machine on the lowest setting and you proceed to sand. And you do not press hard. You keep a light pressure. Let the sandpaper do the cutting. And as you can see, my hand is going in and out, but I'm in constant contact with the surface. Once that is done, you shut the lathe off, and then you sand with the grain. You sand straight with the grain. And you do this for every grit. And if you follow this procedure, with every grit that you use, and I can't tell you which grit to start with because your turning is going to be different than mine. But let's say you start with 80. You start with 80, circular, 80 straight, 100 circular, 100 straight, and so on and so forth. Do not skip a grit. Biggest tip I can give you, do not skip a grit. It'll cost you a little bit more in sandpaper. I know sandpaper is expensive, but this is the last time you have a chance to improve your work. And the prep that goes into finishing is probably 90% of the quality of your finish. So that's about it. And then I would go along the edge and I would take out any scratches I might see. I'd cut the corners, and it's very important to take and ease the corners just ever so slightly. Why? Because when you finish, the finish will either wick up to the corner and make, now you can't see that. I have to demonstrate out here. The finish will want to wick up to the corner and leave a bead or maybe even a run, or it will not wick all the way up and it will leave a dry corner. It'll leave a dry corner over here. So just sand your rim, ease the corners off. That's it. And that goes for wood turning, and that goes for flat woodworking, cabinetry, furniture. If you leave a sharp, crisp line, finish may or may not look the same up to the apex as it will on the flats and the rounds. At this point, what I would do is I would turn on my, well, I would be running my air filter, as I said, and I would take my air compressor and I'd dust it all off, then move up to the next grit. Get rid of as much of the current grit for your next grit. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have a power sander, it could be any angle drill or straight drill, as long as you can get in there and you get yourself a sanding disc pad and some discs. I also add the softer cushion as I'm getting into the finer and finer grits, because I'm not creating any new contour to the wood. I'm just polishing it with a finer and finer grit. This is 180. Once again, slower speed. And I go from the center to one edge using the top corner because it's rotating clockwise down, which is the opposite of this, which is counterclockwise. You can see the bouncing, how much I'm out of round. On the way in this direction, you want to use the bottom portion on the left side because it's coming up into it. Okay? And that's pretty much it. So at this point, you can take your air compressor, if you have one, and dust it off. If you don't have an air compressor, you might have a vacuum. You can vacuum the dust off, or just a brush and brush it off. Turn a bright light on, or get sunlight, and inspect your sanding surface for scratches. All right? If you see any scratches, you can address them. Another thing with power sanding is you can do it by rotating it by hand. That way you know you're making contact. Also, the drill can act as its own power source for rotating the bowl. Come on, don't make a liar out of me. That way you're always in contact with it. So that's about it. That's how I sand. Is it perfect? It's as perfect as I need it to be. So I hope something I showed you here was useful, helpful, maybe entertaining. Give it the old thumbs up if it was, and don't forget to subscribe. So this bowl is ready now for its next step, which is the finishing process, which I'm hoping to be able to do some videos of. It's going to be tricky because I'm by myself, and I may have to set up a table and the camera and just get some static pictures. But it's going to be interesting. We'll see how it comes out. So most importantly, head out to your shop and go make some shavings. Walter out.